It's been a really long time, if ever, since I've felt, you feel sadness, you feel happy, but just feeling a sense of something just taken from you that what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, I took no unfair advantage.
Welcome to the Culture Edit. Unique perspectives into the personal and professional lives of individuals at the helm of successful business, athletics, art, and design. We've got Michael Garrison on the podcast this week. It's his second time being here, and we're really excited that he's here. So let's dive into it. Welcome to the Culture Edit.
Thank you very much.
Round two.
Round two.
This time in person.
This time in person. This time very different topics, but I think really exciting topics. This has been a podcast that's kind of, I don't want to say a long time coming, but a long time coming all week, which has felt like the longest week ever.
It's been a big week.
So,
is it weird that we feel as tired as maybe you should feel? Are you tired?
Not particularly.
Nikki and I are.
I feel like I raced crits all week.
I mean, you guys were grinding. You guys were there before the races, setting up the tent, being there. It's always logistically challenging, remembering to pack things.
Yeah. And working all day, and then being at a crit until 11 o'clock at night in LaGrange.
Yeah, that one thing to everyone listening, because we've gotten this question a lot this week. This is not Chad and I's job at all. No. This is not our job. We have an agency. That's our full-time job. And it's
not a sports agency.
It's a creative agency completely unrelated to cycling. But yeah, let's just clarify that. We do this because we love Michael. He's part of our family. We love the community in Atlanta. He's part of the Atlanta community. And it's the passion. And we're both cyclists, and the passion for the sport drives our passion to help a friend and a fellow rider and someone who wants to bring positivity and inspiration to the sport. So that's where we're coming from when people are like, why are you putting so much effort into this? That's a huge part of it.
It's also what we see as potential. I mean, it's a business and a program that we've put together.
Yeah, and we'll go more into that.
To talk about what the future of professional cycling could look like. So it's more than just a side gig.
No, I know, but people were like, do you pay yourselves?
No.
Yeah. Michael gets all the money. That was what I was saying. Is
Michael had a lucrative week.
But that's where I was coming from. So if it doesn't come across that way, then
eventually, but
No. I mean, it's I don't think people understand that we're not making money at SpeedWeek. Michael is obviously, but we're not there paying ourselves.
Our team isn't making money doing this.
This is the first year. It's basically
the team exists to support Michael.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to get at.
Okay.
It's Monday at noon.
Oof.
Week after SpeedWeek is always a doozy. We all said we were going to sleep in, but we ended up, or at least I can speak for myself, I did not sleep in, and I did not sleep well because when I have a lot going in my brain, I can't sleep.
Me neither.
So none of us slept.
I woke up and Nikki was deep into research.
Oh yeah, I was already he's like, wait,
Nikki was in the rule book.
Yeah, very deep into the rule book.
The USA Cycling rule book. Already emailing, already messaging.
Yeah.
All good. That's just who I am. But now we're here.
I'm so stoked for this.
And we're gonna kind of go through again everything from Michael's gonna walk us through some of his favorite races during the week, what went well, what went planned, what wasn't planned but still went well. Talk through some of the strategy that really evolved throughout the week, because I feel like we didn't come into this with we are going to do this one thing. It was let's see what we can do. Let's see what the strengths are and pivot and execute on what makes the most sense day by day. And then we'll get into the business of cycling and how, what our goals are and what Michael's goals are for impacting the sport of cycling in the US. And then we'll get into the tea.
Yeah, I mean, why most people are probably listening immediately that are involved in the sport of cycling want to know what happened with the controversy at the end of SpeedWeek and how somehow Michael did not end up with the overall leader's jersey we're going to save that, you say. We're going to save that for the end.
Yeah, because we need to, in order to explain it, we have to do a little bit more explanation around what do all these points mean, because most bike races or one-day races, they're not a stage race like this, and it's definitely not criterium stage race. This is very unique. So I think we have to explain what that is, so we'll go into that later.
Yep. Okay.
All right. So we've had a lot of questions this week about, what is this program? What's MGR? What's Speed Club? Which niche? There's a lot of brands swirling around. Yeah, just questions around what is this program and what's the goal. We've had a lot of opinions. We've had a lot of feedback around what people think the goal should be. So we want to address that as well. But, I'll let Michael explain from his perspective what the goal of this has been this year. And then we can kind of go into like the business side of things as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent the last 4 years racing in Europe professionally, Team Hagens Berman Action. And I was good, but I struggled. And for me to come back to the US with an opportunity from you all and from my community and guys that care about the sport, and for me to relentlessly pursue my love and passion for cycling that has built me, especially in Atlanta, through you all and this agency and the equipment partners and the corporate sponsors. It's just been a project of chasing joy, really, that cycling brings, and diversity. And to see that effect wearing on everyone, we're doing big things.
So for those that aren't familiar with the sport, at the highest level, you've got the World Tour, which are large teams with 20 to 30 riders, big infrastructure behind them, and they have large corporate sponsors or beneficiaries, typically millionaires and billionaires that love cycling, right? And so then as it trickles down, that funnel becomes much more narrow, but it's always been really focused on teams. Whereas in the US, within the last, I'd say 5 to 10 years, there's been an opportunity for individual professional cyclists, starting with our buddy Phil Guyman, who said, I think we can do this individually. And they've dabbled in gravel, and they've dabbled in all these different types of events. What we saw with you as a young rider is, let's take that model of kind of privateer, but let's build let's combine the two. So let's take a corporate structure in terms of support. Let's get some corporate sponsors, but then let's also build a business around what this could look like. So for us, there's a private membership club. We've got several members that are part of that. They're supporting the program. Media, what we're doing right now, and the content around that is also part of the program. And then ultimately, our corporate sponsors, what I just mentioned, Apto Solutions and SnapCare, and then all of the industry sponsors. So it's coming together in a much, I think, unique way for us to think about how can we build the most diverse program, which is what you talked about, in America. You've already done professional mountain biking at Sea Otter. You've done podiumed. You've done SpeedWeek. You're going to do Unbound in a couple of weeks.
I wish we had a podium count. I don't think we have a podium count, but
we need
to go back and check that.
It's May. May just started. We have multiple gravel wins.
Yeah.
Podium on the cross country at Sea Otter.
Podium on the road.
Multiple road podiums.
Podium on the road at Sea Otter.
Yeah, I went out and won Pace Bend in Austin.
Oh yeah.
Man.
So there's no one doing this that we know of. There's definitely no one that did SpeedWeek every single race and is going race Unbound.
There's no one doing this.
Yeah.
Well,
and this isn't a project about me wanting to prove anything about, I need to race all these disciplines. This project is just, I've grown up riding mountain bikes, racing cyclocross, riding road bikes, and just loving the variety and the intersection of, or the difference that each discipline brings.
Yeah.
And it's just, I just love riding my bike and racing my bike. And that's why I want to go to all these events and meet all these different groups of people that have their special reasons that they enjoy all their individual things. And yeah, there's an aspect of confidence because I have to believe I can do them all. But I do.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, you know, we were talking about this earlier. It's showing especially in the US, it's showing younger riders, junior riders, and even younger than that, or even, you know, people older or later in their racing career, that you don't have to be pigeonholed into one sport. You don't have to just race road. You don't have to just do crits. You don't have to just do mountain biking or gravel or whatever it is. You can do anything you want. Now, I think when we sat down and we really talked about all of this and what this program meant, the one thing that we kept coming back to is we have to bring a different level of value to the sponsors.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you see, like, the reason sponsors end up dropping teams or sponsorships go away or they pull out of races and the big races fold or big teams fold is because they've stopped seeing the value. And so that's totally understandable. And as being two people who also own a business, we understand that, like, you can't just invest in everything that kind of opens their hands to you. And so we want to make sure that, like, when we reached out to these potential sponsor partners or corporate partners, we were going to be able to drive value through content, exposure, like everything that they want. But I think people usually wait for the sponsors to tell them what they want and tell them what they need.
Yeah.
And we were like, no, we'll actually come up with an entire creative plan. You tell us if it's okay, but we're going to drive the creativity so that you don't have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important strategy to highlight with this program as well.
Yeah, because the old model does not work. Like, we know this. Like, and that's why I talk about beneficiaries, like, at the World Tour level. The only reason the World Tour teams exist is because of those people that have money basically to throw away because they love the sport. In the US, the traditional model does not work. Everyone understands that, but they can't figure out how to actually turn professional cycling into a business. Well, I think what we're doing, which is really around attention, to your point, our sponsors and even potential sponsors, people that have approached us this week, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, we've been blown away by the response through SpeedWeek of new corporate sponsors that want to be a part of what we're doing.
They were watching the live streams and were so entertained by Michael and so inspired by Michael and the way he was just being aggressive and racing, but also being very positive. They came to races later in the week and said, I don't know how, but I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And I think another little note that I think is funny is the athletes that like to make play of the quote unquote influencers, when in reality, that's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Is influence,
Entertain
and entertain and inspire.
Yeah.
And that's value.
Yeah.
Completely.
And why not have fun?
Exactly.
That's my whole thing. Like, we talked about this earlier, you know, I have not been engaged in a speed week in years, and we obviously cycle a lot.
Have you ever been engaged in a speed week ever?
Definitely not. I mean,
No.
I've watched a few men's
She's
races.
raced them.
Like, but I've stayed and watched maybe like a couple races, just like a college park or whatever, because I can ride my bike to them. But outside of that, I've never followed all of Speed Week because, again, like, I kind of think, like, you kind of see these big teams, they're faceless, in my opinion. Maybe you'll have, like, I mean, I do think that's what Legion was doing really well for a long time, is they did have really great personalities that were inspiring people. And I think that is truly, like, the way that the world has to go. But other than that, you know, there's not typically a lot of personalities in these bigger teams. And so this is the first time I've been engaged. And I think when I was thinking about, and we'll get into this a little bit later, there was some jokes. People are poking, you know, fun at you throughout the week about you waving to the crowd or getting the crowd pumped up, or, like, you know, just engaging with the fans. And to me, I was so confused because I'd recently had a conversation with someone that was essentially complaining about corporate sponsors not giving money to teams. And I was like, okay, well, what are you doing to get their attention?
Or what do they get out of it?
And what do they get out of it? And you know what? Sometimes there's going to be corporate sponsors that really don't get anything out of it, but they appreciate the relationships and they have fun. And that's what they get out of it. Like,
But I did that at Aaron's. I mean, that's why it was for employee building and fun.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked at the Braves and there was a lot of corporate sponsors that were definitely losing. They weren't making money off sponsoring the Braves or putting big sponsorships around the stadium necessarily. Like, everyone knows who Home Depot is. You don't need to sponsor the Braves.
Yeah.
They did it because they were passionate about baseball and it was, you know, a great fun thing for them to be part of. But anyways, my point is, all these other sports prioritize fandom and prioritize fan entertainment. Like in every big sports teams, there is a entire department dedicated to fan entertainment and fan engagement at the sports and outside of the actual, sport that's happening. I don't understand why people would be against you like riling up the crowd or like engaging with the crowd, because in order for cycling to come to the level of football or basketball or baseball in America, we have to have we have to have fan engagement. You have to have direct relationships with your fans and your corporate sponsors, and they all have to feel connected to you and to the teams.
And I think that's what racing individually as well brings such a great connection to the world, because there's just this really deep aspect of humanity, because I have nowhere to hide. We have nowhere to hide. People know that there's us, and that's it. And
MGR's Michael Garrison Racing, NICH's Nikki and Chad. It's all over.
We created this.
Our clothes.
And yeah, there's no, I ride for this team and this guy's winning.
Yeah.
And, I'm a part of that win. Like, this is me and my personality and my humanity and my desire to connect with the world in the spotlight. And I love it.
Yeah.
And it's the most vulnerable place to be, because as we've seen, people can really go after you in a negative way. Mm-hmm. But I think what we've also seen that outshines everything is the level of support. So it's such a vulnerable position for anyone to be in, and for any business to take a risk on. But I think it's worth it, because hopefully it'll inspire other people to do the same. Also, though, like races, again, race organizers, one area of opportunity is to give riders and give teams the platform to have personalities. Because even with call-ups, it's like, okay, come on up, this is our race, whatever, mm-hmm. This is our, and there's really no like walk-up music, there's no like hype, there's no like beep, beep, beep. Like when you think of other sports,
Nikki was dying to get on the microphone.
I was like, let me have the microphone.
I was a little surprised, not to be egotistical, but I believe that I rode well at some of these races and was animating, and I think the world wants to hear more than from just the winner.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I agree.
And I was honestly
after the race.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised when they didn't do more interviews, because other guys, they want to tell a bit of a story too, even if it's quick.
Yeah,
it's like this mentality of like, just, okay, it's over, let's pack up and go.
It's the same thing they've been doing forever.
Yeah, and I think that we again, it's really hard to have a bike race. We know this. It's really expensive. There's a lot of people putting out a lot of effort and not necessarily getting back as much as everyone probably thinks that they're getting back. That's another thing. I think there's little delusions on like how much race organizers make money and all that.
Yeah.
But I do think there's little things throughout the day to hype up and bring other personalities in. I mean, I know they try to do that with Ty, like bring him up and like, kind of talk through. But I think plan it out so you have a list of people that you're bringing out of whatever. But like, how cool would it be if they had a content plan where they brought back previous riders, but like make sure they have a, pretty big personality. And so you have these different commentators throughout the week. Yeah. You have these personalities throughout the week. I think that alone would be enough to kind of...
Especially at a series like this. I mean, Lifetime is doing a great job at Sea Otter. They had meet and greets with the athletes, and, people want to engage and people want to hear the stories. And I mean, that's what we're doing with the newsletter and stuff and the interviews is giving the content to the people. Mm-hmm. But 90% of these athletes, aren't doing that.
Yeah. And I think that just reminded me, I should have said this at the beginning, like what we're talking about with criterium racing, this is like a very narrow discipline within professional cycling. And again, you're going to be doing all of the disciplines other than track, I guess we would say, if that's a discipline. But you're going to be in cyclocross, but you're going to be
maybe
he might do a cross. It's a very so what we're talking about right now is this very narrow discipline of criterium racing, where teams are just built just to do criterium races, and like the structure that we're talking about has been the same way as long as I've been racing bikes for 25 years.
But let's talk about criterium real quick, because I even think of someone like my dad will be like, wait, what's criterium racing?
Yeah, what is a criterium? It's a weird word.
It's basically a course that's typically less than a mile, right?
City circuit.
Circuit. And so it's a really fun atmosphere compared to maybe a longer road race because there can be a pretty big crowd opportunity to engage with riders because you're just going in a circle. It's not always a circle. A lot of times it's much more technical than that.
Rectangle.
But you're essentially going in a circle around some sort of city center. And it just allows for more fan engagement. But it also allows for like a lot of crashing, a lot of action, a lot of speed. Typically pretty flat. We obviously had some ones that were a little punchy this in SpeedWeek, but typically criteriums are known for just being flat and fast.
Yeah.
And would you say this is the biggest week? This is the biggest week in criterium racing?
As a week, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big series, America's Dairylands, Intelligentsia, Gateway, but I think SpeedWeek has a pretty rich history. So.
But Athens is the biggest. Athens is the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Athens Twilight. Let's talk.
I haven't been to Tulsa yet, but
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like Tulsa's kind of like the Athens.
I think
but...
Tulsa's coming up on Athens.
Okay.
But we'll find out.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be going there.
Do we?
Shout out to Tulsa.
Okay, so let's pivot now and talk about actual Speed Week, starting off with Greenville.
What the people want to hear.
What the people want to hear.
Speed Week was a machine. I mean, we're always moving. Race started at Greenville. I drove up that afternoon, straight to the race. That was 4 races in a row: Greenville, Spartanburg, Athens, Peachtree Corners. That feels like a month ago.
Yeah.
Greenville was great, super technical. Started at the back, made my way to the front.
Even though you had lapped the field at Sunny King 2 weeks earlier, you still started in the back. We didn't get a call up. We kept wondering, when's the call out go? How many times do you have to lap the field to get a call up?
So I lapped the field at Greenville. Some chaos in the final because again, why isn't that a rule that lapped riders technically we're in like a different race?
Yeah.
And
so lapped riders get to help their teammates. So
yeah.
We realized pretty quickly that it is a disadvantage for you to lap.
We did.
If the riders that are with you that are basically following your wheel because they're not really helping you.
Yeah.
If they have teammates in the group, because then they can lead them out for the win. So that was a lesson learned.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then it takes us to
10.
Spartanburg. Yeah. Top, was it 7th, maybe 8th?
8th.
Yeah. And then Spartanburg was whenever we realized, and we had other teams realize there's a different strategy that needs to happen here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spartanburg scared me.
Yeah.
It scared me more than Athens, more than kind of any of them, because I remember weeks before my good friend Oliver Flout telling me about the crashes.
Shout out Oliver.
Thanks for getting in Michael's head.
And I mean, it was dead flat. And for me, who, I know I'm going well physically, fitness is good, I worry about a group that can stay together.
Yeah. Because it's scary at the end.
Yeah,
right?
and I've heard, it's going to come to a field sprint.
Yeah.
And I expected that. And
it was really technical on the backside, right? It got like really narrow.
It just narrow.
Okay.
It was just it almost felt like a track. It was just super fast.
Okay.
I think our average was 31.
Wow.
Something.
31 miles an hour. Okay.
Something high. And in the first 4 races, we had Miami, Blazers, Legion, Ribble, and Rainstorm. Those are the big teams. And for me as an individual, I knew, and I would ride where if I just would, when the attacks were going, all I had to wait for was the 4th team.
Yeah.
Because if 3 teams are up the road, I don't. The 4th team has it.
Yeah. Because they're going to chase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A rider from a particularly large team in the U.S. decided to inform to me that I was trash.
Yeah. That was the first time you're like, welcome to crit
and
racing in America.
Hey,
has anyone ever called you trash in Europe?
Not trash. I mean, maybe some other language word.
Right. You don't know. Maybe
you're like, no one ever called me anything. They're like,
and then next lap, we come around. I'm like, what did you say to me? And he's like, you're trash. And then immediately after, I think it was Tyler Williams attacks, and I follow, and that's the move. And I'm like, next thing we know, we have
the trash man did make the move.
No, the trash man. Sorry.
That's such a weird.
It's intimidation thing.
Yeah,
it's like trying to
intimidate.
Yeah.
And we rolled. It was a great race. I had the night before in Greenville. I had started my finish with 1 lap to go a little too late, so I got swarmed into turn 1 with 1 lap to go, and the sprint starts there.
Yeah.
And so Friday at Spartanburg, I want to try.
Yeah.
And I tried, and it didn't work. I mean, I didn't win. Ribble had a great lead out from me. There's great footage of it. But
Was that Jim Brown?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I left that race on such a high just because I gave it my all as an individual.
Yeah. And that's when we learned also that the guys at Ribble are smart because they got on the front and they drove the peloton to make sure that you guys didn't get lapped. They didn't want to get lapped either because they wanted I guess Jim was kind of their sprinter. And they wanted him.
He's got a pop.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to see. I mean, through the week, I really got to know the Ribble guys, but Joe Laverick, who's kind of running that team, he's racing for him, but also managing and directing. And, when you see your friends win, it's a great feeling.
Yeah. Former teammate.
Yeah. That's about it.
And 2 former teammates with Cole,
Yeah,
too.
Cole.
Yeah.
Cole and Joe.
Yeah.
Shout out. A lot of shout outs.
Shout out to Ribble.
Shout out Cole and Joe.
They're great guys. I
Yeah.
really
All of
liked
them.
getting to know them.
Yeah.
Really classy riders. So cool. So that was Spartanburg. Then that takes
the big
us
one.
into the Super Bowl. It's
Yeah.
It's a weird. It's kind of like NASCAR, where the Super Bowl is at the beginning of the year. With Daytona 500 is the beginning of the year for NASCAR.
Yeah.
So anyone that hasn't been to Athens Twilight, even if you're not a cycling fan, I've taken people that weren't cycling fans over the years, and they're always completely blown away. The crowd's huge. It's like 5 to 10 deep all the way around.
Yeah.
College kids going crazy. Huge environment, atmosphere. You missed it last year. We were there. You had major FOMO, and you said, I'm going to be there next year.
Yeah.
So then we're there. It was surreal, right?
I mean, when I think about the whole year, everyone knows Athens.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks about Athens. It was just beyond incredible, like when I just think about the day as a whole. And yeah, I rode over to the race around 6 and just headphones on and just getting into downtown. I literally had chills.
Yeah.
And it's never happened going to a bike race in Europe. I mean, there's been big energy. I mean, Gaint Wevelgem, U23 Roubaix, but no chills, like such a deep connection to what you're doing.
Yeah.
I had my family there, you guys there, my girlfriend Shannon was there, my brother. I mean, it was Speed Club members and friends.
Yeah.
It was just positive.
Yeah.
And I raced my heart out and
Started in the back again.
I started in the back. It maybe took me a few laps to go to the front.
3. I was counting.
And I just felt so connected to that race.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was hyping up the crowd, but there was certain areas along the course where I just felt a connection.
You said on the backside there was
the
like
beer,
a whole
the
group.
beer guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys on the backside.
They found you after the race.
Yeah, they bought me a beer and Paulie's in Athens. Yeah, I mean, I bridged to the solo guy Gibbons, eventual winner. Congrats to him. It was a pretty tactical race. For a while, we were riding pretty hard.
Your front derailleur fell off.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
I didn't.
Di2 malfunction. We had to force the front derailleur into the big ring. That was a little scary.
Yeah, it was a pretty tense moment for me because you called me on the radio and said my front derailleur, I'm in my small ring, which
Yeah.
I didn't even understand how you were keeping up in your small ring. Check with the officials to make sure you could come in. And so had to go through that process. And then they're like, fine. And then we had 5 or 6 people trying to get that bike fixed.
Just because it's a motor and it's like, we got to
what do
get it.
you
We
even
need
do?
the big ring.
Yeah.
And yeah, just,
So then they put you back in the back. Mm-hmm. And so they had to go to the front again.
I think I got put back in. I think I went to the front, and I think I just went straight off the front.
You did, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole night was just amazing, Carpenter went early. I think 5 or 6 laps to go. He was solo, and I trusted my strength. And I made my move with 2 to go, and Gibbons was just.
You got to him, but you dragged Gibbons.
I got to him,
guys.
yeah. I got to him quickly, and it felt good. And Gibbons just perfectly timed going over the top. And Gibbons had enough to respond to me and then go over the top. And, props to him for that.
Yeah. He's super experienced. Crit racer. And that's one thing I want us to talk about because you got a lot of messages. I got a lot of messages about.
I didn't get any messages.
Our strategy. Our strategy of you just going hard every single race. Like, especially early on, even after Twilight, it was like, why is Michael going hard? Why is he getting in every break? Like, why doesn't he just sit and wait? Like, but we knew you knew from the beginning, like, this is what we have to do.
Yeah.
We have to just go hard.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to win the field sprint, and we're going to make the race as hard as possible was the strategy. And then we started to realize we're building a lot of points. We weren't even thinking about the overall.
We didn't even think
about it. Even on our radar.
We didn't even know there was an overall.
Yeah. We're like, oh, there's this points thing.
Right. I think Joe told us.
There's like a hidden
Joe
point
Laverick
system.
here in our studio, and he's like, you're winning the overall and the points.
Well, someone told me after Spartanburg, I don't know when I took the lead, but.
Yeah. Yeah, so what we're talking about is over the course of the week, there's points awarded for each race where you place individually at the end of the race, but there's also 4 times within the race that points are awarded for sprints. And there's also, I think, some points for laps led. So you had accumulated.
It's a very mysterious points system.
Being off the front for so long, you'd accumulate all these points that all of a sudden we found ourselves in the overall lead after Twilight. I think it was after Twilight.
I think it was after Sunday because I didn't get a call up on Sunday in Peachtree Corners.
Oh, okay. So after Sunday, Peachtree Corners, we realized, because it was Monday whenever Joe was like, y'all should go for the overall. Which again wasn't even on our early season radar. We were just thinking about Athens Twilight, and it didn't change. I mean, you talk about this. It didn't change our strategy once we said let's try to go for the overall because we still knew it had to be Hulk smash. Had to continue. Okay, that's what got us the points. Let's not stop.
Yeah, I mean the racing dynamic changed completely. Came Tuesday. Sunday was kind of had a hard hill. Everyone was tired. I think a lot of people had enjoyed their evening in Athens after the race.
Yeah.
Not as big of a focus race. And then we had Tuesday, which I had the leader's jersey. Legion in Miami had left. They'd gone home. And the dynamic completely altered to Rainstorm and Michael.
Ribble wasn't overall.
And Ribble.
Yeah, Ribble.
Yeah.
Ribble was focused on the
wins.
And Rain and Michael were focused on the overall.
Yep.
And
they have 6 guys, by the way.
And they have 6.
Yeah.
Union City was wild. I rode really hard. Group split up. I kept trying. I picked up some points preems there.
Yep. I think on every opportunity you pick up points.
Yeah. No, but no Rainstorm would ride with me, understandably. And field sprint, fine finish at maybe 6th.
Yeah.
Something like that.
5th, I think.
Then we go.
But retained overall, we picked up a ton of points. And the gap started to grow in terms of your lead for the overall.
Did it grow or was it still kind of small?
I mean, it was narrow, but we were starting to realize we could get more points throughout the race than before. Like we started realizing, okay, there is a strategy around how do we actually accumulate these points. Let's make sure that we're using every opportunity that's presenting itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we go to Hateville.
Hateville's technical, not a lot happened. And we kind of mid-race just said, let's just take this and like status quo. Yeah. Because it was flat. It was hard to get away.
Yeah.
And it was super sketchy.
It was sketchy.
I think Rodriguez got some points then.
Yeah.
They did a lead out in the sprint. A break went. It was okay because nobody was a threat. Rodriguez got some points in the sprint.
He took the lead back.
He took the lead, yeah.
Yeah. So that took us to, we knew we had 2 hard-ass races
Yeah.
that were coming up, LaGrange and College Park,
Yeah.
with LaGrange being probably the hardest.
LaGrange was wild.
Yeah.
It looked so hard.
And we just, Friday was harder, losing the lead, and I was kind of happy to give it away for the day. Knowing Saturday was hard, I'd never seen the course before. I didn't know what to expect. But anytime I have a day that I don't feel as well, I didn't feel the best in Hapeville. I always bounce back really hard, and I just felt so mentally prepared for.
Yeah.
And I told myself the night before that I was going to win in LaGrange. I still consider that race a win.
Yeah.
The way.
So you went full throttle from the gun,
Yeah.
and blew the race to bits, ruining half the field's night. They drove all the way to LaGrange to do 3 laps.
That was a long drive too.
And yeah, so you got in the break.
I didn't get in the break. I
Oh,
made
sorry,
the
you
break.
were the break.
I created the break.
Yeah.
4 guys with you?
Yeah.
Five guys with you?
And I wouldn't even say I attacked
Yeah, you just
the
rode.
course. I'm bummed because I was so focused. I never started my Wahoo, and I want to see my power numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, but I just said, whatever, let's do this. Let's go. I'm just going to ride. And I just rode. And
we realized that Rain, their guy for the overall lead, missed the break, and that Gomez was their guy in the break, and he wasn't a threat. So we just said, screw it. Let's lap the field this time.
yeah.
Because there's no reason not to lap the field.
The feeling of me going out, and Rodriguez was on my wheel.
Yeah.
And he knew that, I was all he needed to worry about. And to ride a competitor off your wheel is a pretty good feeling.
Yeah. So we decided to lap the field, and you brought Cole with you from Ribble. And then when we got back in the field, they just did an awesome job getting a win. I mean, it was really, really cool to watch them. But the key point was that you then opened up a huge lead on Rodriguez and Rain after that race.
Yeah.
So we went into the last. Well, I'd say after LaGrange, tell us how you felt, because that was probably one of the most, outside of Twilight, that was what I saw was you were super pumped.
Yeah.
I was fired up.
Yeah.
I mean, to really own the fact that I lapped the field by myself. I mean, what more can you ask for? That
Yeah.
that's a real. It was hard.
Yeah.
And once we lapped, I made it to the front. I was tired, but I did that on my own.
Yeah.
And to have that feeling so deep in your heart that I just did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
It's a huge
went out and
accomplishment.
took that jersey, and there was nowhere to hide, and that was all me.
Yeah.
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 And that's a really, really, really good feeling.
I told Chisel that it's so fun for me. It's like I'm playing a video game where there's no consequences. I can say, Michael, I think you should lap the field, and then you just get your head down and start doing it.
Like, beep, 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 beep.
It's like
I
I'm
was
putting in a cheat code.
Yeah, I was a little scared about, should I actually take the lap? But in the end, it was just, that's just so much more iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's another thing is people were like, oh, why doesn't he just sit in and wait till the end, blah, 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 like what we talked about. And
We're here to put
that's
on
just
the
not
show.
fun. Yeah. At the end of the day, sure. I mean, it's one of those things when you think of basketball players I think of basketball and I think of Shaquille O'Neal, and not because he was necessarily, he had really great periods in his career, but he was such a character, and he always seemed like he was having, obviously I was an Orlando Magic fan for a long time because that's where I grew up. He was the biggest character, and no matter who was outperforming him or better, younger guys would come and obviously outperform him. He was just so entertaining, and he seemed like he had so much fun that's burned in my brain forever as one of my favorite players of all time.
They don't need to hang on the rim after the slam dunk, but they're still hitting it.
Exactly.
They're still doing it.
Exactly. And so I
Exactly.
think of the same thing. It's could you just sit in and be boring? Could you be really conservative and not?
No.
Could you shoot the shot and not hang on the ring? Could you not do the slam
Yeah.
dunk because maybe you'd fall? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's way more fun to watch.
And at that race, for me, it kind of hit me too, how fans were resonating when you had kids and their parents were like waiting to talk to you. I didn't see
Kids
it.
that aren't cyclists.
Yeah, were like waiting to talk to
They're
you.
like
And they
little
weren't.
baseball player kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they just want to take a picture with you, which I didn't see that happening with other teams.
No,
Like, it
because
was
they
like-
were. And what did
yeah.
that little kid say to you? That was so adorable.
I mean, that was. He comes up to me. Are you Michael Garrison? Yeah. He's like, that was just so incredible. And then his dad comes up, and his dad is just as stoked.
So you didn't know
And-
them at all?
No.
Yeah.
I asked them, are they from LaGrange? They said no. They had driven down for the race.
wow.
And I asked him if he rode. He said, oh, I used to ride some. He had his like baseball hat on, baseball uniform on, maybe at a game, and just asked to get a picture. And I mean, that just as much as the feelings you get in the race, like to have that post race is so incredibly special.
Yeah.
And again, it goes to, it's not just about the win. It's not just being on the top step. That is important, not saying that. But to build relationships with fans outshines just stepping up on a top step of a podium. And building inspiring young kids to go out and do something. And maybe his sport isn't cycling, maybe it is baseball. And maybe he's been told, oh, you're to this, you're to that, you can't do this, you can't do that. And now he sees you and he's like, well, no, yes, I can actually.
Yeah.
And I think what I've gotten a lot of people tell me is how hard I push, and
Try.
seeing how hard I work and try
Yeah.
and try and want to race. And maybe he's going back to baseball practice, but for him to see someone else leave their heart out there, and for him to apply that to whatever he needs to apply that to is, again, like what more could I ask for as an athlete?
Yeah. Do you have memory of being that little and going to a bike race and being inspired?
Got one.
Yeah.
Grant Park crit doing the
Really?
well, I guess watching. Okay.
Wait, tell us the story. No,
Yeah.
I mean, tell us.
Well, I went to Grant Park crit when I was 8.
Grand Park Crit, for those who don't know, criterium was a criterium race in the heart of Atlanta in Grant Park that Chad actually started originally with some other guys and their old team.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the longest standing criteriums in Atlanta until a couple years ago when they stopped doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I founded it and ran it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Promoted
Yeah.
it for 10
And
years.
they had a kids race from turn 4 to the finish.
Yep.
I did the kids race, and they handed us these Aaron's
Lucky dogs.
dogs.
Yeah.
And I swear we've talked about this, but we swear that it was you
Yeah.
who gave me
Really?
the dog.
Yeah.
Y'all have never told me this story.
Really?
That's really adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
I think
gosh,
I was
like a tear
8
welling
or
up.
9.
Yeah, yeah.
It probably was you. I mean,
I mean, I was the one handing them all out. to
yeah,
all the
because no
kids.
one else worked for Aaron's, and
No.
you had an obsession with Lucky Dog.
I mean, it was a
I might
nice
I
still
miss
but-
Lucky Dog.
Yeah.
Do you still have it?
Maybe.
It's probably somewhere. I bet
I've
it's
probably
somewhere
got an
in
old
your
one
room.
for you. We can reenact it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah. So that's a early memory. And did you win? Did you win it? Do you remember?
I don't think so.
Okay. But we
You
made
got
you
the
feel
lucky dog.
we made you feel like you won it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
wow. So that had to be a while ago.
It's a long time ago.
That's cool.
But yeah, I mean, all the messages I've gotten about the way I ride, and just because I just love to ride hard, and I love to push, and it's about an attitude of positivity around the sport. If I was negative about my competitors and my athletes and how I felt about myself, then I would want to hide and want to try to need the result to prove what I am.
Right. Do anything for the result.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm here. I don't feel ashamed of any result I've had. If anything, I'm just proud of the way I've raced, and that shines above the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wrapping up, we go into the last race, College Park. Got the
With the
leader's
lead.
jersey, significant lead. Like it would take a catastrophe for you to lose that. It became a big goal for us, big goal for sponsors, and it was a hard course.
It was.
So we said first things first, we're going to win the jersey.
Yeah.
Secondly, if we can win the race, that'd be great. But first things first, win the jersey. So
The leader jersey, like the
The
overall
leader
leader
jersey.
jersey.
hard course. It got to the point where a pretty big group got away.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to you, let's just let them go
Yeah.
because your number one competitor was still with you and they were going to eat up all the points. And we just kind of thought that was the race.
Yeah. I mean, we'd started the race kind of, let's offense is the best defense, but the course wasn't the most conducive to that for me on the day. The day before was probably one of the biggest efforts I've made.
Yeah.
And so
how'd you feel on the hill on your college park?
I mean, I wasn't the most snappy. I didn't feel awful, but I didn't feel great. But that's okay. I was still confident. Other guys were tired. And then we just kind of switched to we can play defense.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
It then started raining. When I told you, I was like, it's about to really rain.
Yeah.
And then next thing I know, you call me and say, I got a flat.
Yeah.
And then I see you running up the course, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, is Michael hurt? That's
Right.
like where my brain went.
So I go into the pit. Michael's got a flat. We need a wheel. A lot of confusion. 140, 160. I said 160. They're trying to find them. You pull in.
Yeah.
At the same time, Matt Bostock from Ribble pulls in and looks at you. And I watched it, and he was like, take my wheel.
Yeah.
And you're like, are you sure?
Matt had a crash.
Yeah.
There was some calamity in the pits. They had neutral wheels, but they're wheels, but that's about it.
Yeah.
It was raining. Matt had a nice set of wheels, good tires. We had a great relationship through the week, and his was an offering of compassion, sportsmanship, care, respect, and I would have done the same thing for him. And
It was touching.
Yeah.
Like we were touched.
And the
by
reason
it.
that for those that might be like, wait, why would this guy give him a wheel? So because Matt wasn't in like an overall point standing, and yes, maybe he could have like tried to sprint to win that specific race, but they had another guy that they're focusing on to try to get that win.
yeah,
He saw it as like, okay, I'm not necessarily giving up like a huge race to help out a friend. That this does mean something really impactful
And
to Michael. And so that's like the touching part. It's, just a selfless act of sportsmanship.
he cared more about me than himself.
Yeah. And I even told Frankie Andreo, he came over to me and was like, do you want to ring the bell? This was after you were in the field. And he was like, what happened over there? And I was like, I think one of the Ribble guys gave him his wheel because they're friends. And he was like, really? Wow, that's so cool. Like, that's one of the like nicest things I've seen happen in a race. Like, he was like even touching. He's he's a pretty famous racer.
Yeah, he was on U.S. Postal.
So it's not like he doesn't. So you know what I mean? Like, my point is, it's no.
It wasn't like that's against the rules.
Yeah. He wasn't like that's against the rules. He was just like, wow, that's really cool, very cool.
Yeah. The race finished well. We were celebrating. I assumed hugs,
happiness.
We knew that you won. There was no way that you didn't win overall. Yeah.
Stood by the finish line. We see some confusion by the stage with the rainstorm team.
Your mom actually said, "Hey, something's going on." The rainstorm team director Thomas Cravens is over there and he's talking to the officials, and it looks like there's something brewing.
Well, she said go over there. I went over there, and they immediately all stopped talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What's going on?"
It was like secret club, like a secret club.
Secret
or something.
club. I broke up the secret club, and then they all stopped talking. I said, "Hey, I just want confirmation on general classification." And they kind of gave me the, we're working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then I went back over to you, and then the official came up to us a few minutes later.
And they protested. There's a rule in the rule book that wheels cannot be exchanged between teams. It is a rule. But at the same time, this is a matter of respect, and that rule, we all agree, needs some refinement. No advantage was gained on the course by my actions.
Yeah.
And the fact that he, as a director, chose to undermine my accomplishments.
And his own team's accomplishments.
Yeah.
Chasing that it's hard.
Yeah.
Well, and I think
So explain what happened. We didn't explain what happened. So you lost the overall. They're protesting you taking the wheel from another team. You got relegated from 15th place to last 34th place, which means you lost all your points.
Yeah, so he went from winning the entire series to, because even though I will say I was watching from across the course, there was multiple refs in the tent. There was multiple employees of USA Cycling in the tents, like trying to like put the wheels on, push you off, all of that. No one ever said anything about this being a rule. Now, one could argue, do we need to read? I read the rule book this morning, okay? So, but we're also all very small cycling teams that truly are trying to do the best that they can. And so in that moment, there was a lot of officials with a lot of knowledge that didn't say anything. Mm-hmm. There was also a team director who's been working in the sport for decades, and we have pictures of it off in the corner watching as this was happening. And now we see he was watching and waiting to later stage a protest instead of coming up in that moment and saying, hey, that's against the rule, which is what a normal person would typically do.
Yeah.
And that's really hard for me because I care so much about this sport. I love racing hard. And I think we as athletes just want to trust that we're in each other's best interest.
Yeah, for sure.
And the fact that he was in there and knew exactly what was happening.
And waiting.
And instead of being, a respectful, mature man, he decided to wait, knowing the rules, and undermine.
Yeah.
For a way for him to win on a technicality.
Yes.
But one thing we also want to clarify, because I got this question a lot, like last night when we all went out to dinner, people were under the impression that this was all to win money. And so people were like, well, maybe he protested because it got the team more money. And honestly,
nope. People would understand if it was about money, but it wasn't about money.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is people would understand if it was about money because a lot of the teams don't have a lot of money. A lot of the guys on the teams don't make a lot of money. And so that's totally that is understandable. Would I think it makes more sense in the moment if you see something that's wrong, you call it out right there. Like, hey, Michael, you can't use that wheel. You got to use the neutral support. I think that's what a normal mature person would do.
Yeah.
But especially knowing that everyone's in the chaos of everything and not thinking clearly, not whatever, but he was thinking clear enough to see it, not say something, hold it for later, and then use it against you, and for no reason other than ego. Mm-hmm. And I really question, because I do think the Rain guys are super talented and they race their hearts out, and we are friends with some of the guys that started the team. And so it's hard for us because we have a lot of respect for the Michael Hernandez is out there. Alfredo, all these guys race their hearts out. I question whether they would want to win on a technicality like that. I don't know because I haven't talked to them, but
my gut is no. My gut is that the looks on their face was like, I don't like winning like this.
Yeah. And all we want racing to come down to is what happens on the road.
Exactly.
And we raced 8 races. At the end, I took no unfair advantage through that race. This rule was designed for road races where maybe you don't have a team car that's nearby, and so that there's no unfair advantage there. This is just a drop down from the UCI.
Yeah.
There was no thinking done, and I feel an aspect of I feel attacked.
Yeah.
Well, because there's a history there. Now that we've read the rule doesn't require you to be relegated.
No, it just says you could be given a warning.
It's
but
a warning.
At the judge discretion.
It's on the fourth occurrence.
If you were to take someone's wheel 4 times,
yeah,
then they would relegate you. But first through 3, don't mention it. It's like a $20 penalty. And the actual, when you read all of it, it's the ref can give a warning or these relegations, and then it's 1 through 4.
The rules are designed to be interpreted by the judges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing we can say. The rules were designed to be interpreted by the judges, and us as racers, all we want is that what happened on the road to reflect in the results. And the fact that they chose this path against me feels very insulting.
Talk about how you felt standing on that podium.
Yeah, I chose to race in the leader's jersey that day out of respect for the race. I think it was to have the leader race in the leader's jersey on the last day, I think is special. I did it in other days just because of sponsors, and I didn't have to race in it. We get the protest happens, I get stripped of the result. I'm running over to the tent again because I respect the race, and I'm gonna stand on the podium no matter what. They started the podium presentation completely without me.
Yeah.
I don't know if they expected me to just not show up. Obviously, they see me over there changing. Our tent's right by the start finish.
Yeah.
They called my name, then they call Alfredo up who had won, and the guys just stood there for a while, and I'm just kind of confused and completely numb. I didn't really know what was happening after we'd put so much into this and completely believed in what we accomplished. And I got up on the podium. One of the photographers is asking me to smile because he didn't know what had happened.
Yeah.
He didn't know if I had just lost naturally. And I tried. And I physically could not eke out a smile. And it's been a really long time, if ever, since I've felt, you feel sadness, you feel happy, but just feeling a sense of something just taken from you that what did I do wrong? Like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, I took no unfair advantage. Tell me one thing that I gained from that other than a brother and a friend.
And Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a connection with more riders.
Yeah.
And connection to my community. And it's just so insulting. And I mean, I still went to him and I shook his hand and I told him congratulations. Because again, I always want to rise above anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't rise above it.
How do you want to intro that, Nikki? So I'll give my perspective. So I was up in the booth during the whole presentation. I missed everything. I went through the numbers. Whoever that was in the booth with me was super nice and super courteous to explain to me how they had calculated the final results, which you still didn't even lose by that much after that travesty. I go out. Team director of Rain is with your mom and looked very aggressive. And
He was like in your mom's face.
And I walked up and said, "What's going on?" And he walked off. And that's whenever your mom, Nancy, said that Nikki had a conversation with that team director that didn't go that well.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I'm laughing because I'm trying to bring a little levity into like the sad situation because I feel like I'm gonna cry.
But I think there's a history there that would explain why you had a confrontation.
Yes. So I was just standing there and like I'm looking at the podium. I'm looking at Michael's face. He literally looks like he's like in PTSD mode because again, it's that like something like being ripped from you that you're just like, how this isn't real, like how this happened, like I laid it all out there, like
I earned it.
Yeah, and you earned it. And just seeing your face, literally, I went from seeing your face to seeing red. And it was all these things throughout the week that had been building up with him, with Thomas Craven specifically, but also like a little like, you know, with just the way the races and some of the tension was going overall. And also like what you had been through, like you had lost your grandfather in the middle of SpeedWeek, which no one talked about, no one knows. And so you're dealing with a lot. And I always have this like
literally went to a funeral during the middle of
Yeah, and I always have this thing where I'm like, why are people so mean when you don't know what someone's going through? Like you don't know what this person's going through. So why add on to that by just being nasty for no reason?
Yeah.
And so what we didn't talk about, because the three of us had agreed earlier in the week when we saw this that we were just going to rise above it. It's whatever, like not a big deal. But Craven had posted on his own social media account. This is the team director of Rain. Again, we are not hating on the Rain team. They raced their hearts out. That's total, like they didn't post anything mean. They didn't do anything. This is specifically about the team director, which makes it even a little bit more concerning. He took it upon himself earlier in the week to post a video of a animated flamboyant spin instructor bouncing up and down and waving his hands, and he put like some weird music to it and said, this is the way Michael Garrison sprints, or like how to learn how to sprint like Michael Garrison. And he tagged you, and it was clearly like an insult and an intimidation and just downright bullying. And for me, like not many things set me off, but the things that do set me off are like when someone is bullying, taking advantage, or something just is downright wrong towards my family or friends. And so it was kind of all of that just bubbled up. And I walked over to him and I just said, you realize that you have created something so toxic that we're now coming for you at every single race. Mm-hmm. And he was like, what? Why? What? Like, trying to play that game. And I was like, what you did earlier in the week, we didn't even respond. We didn't respond to him. We didn't repost it. We didn't respond. We didn't make anything. We were just like, rise above it. This is a 60-year-old man. He should be more mature than to bully a 22-year-old kid. And so he said, what did I do? And I said, well, we really didn't appreciate that post. And I didn't know that your mom had already said something to him the day or 2 days before. We really didn't appreciate that post because we just saw it as bullying. And I'm like, okay, so Michael's 22. What makes it okay for you to bully a 22-year-old kid on the internet? You're a leader of this team. I was like, it's very disturbing and very inappropriate. And he didn't like that. And other words were exchanged. And then I walked off.
Like we said, if it was coming from, a fellow racer, that is in the same social demographic as you, I think it's a little bit more understandable. That's not someone that's not in a position of power, someone that hasn't been in an established position of power. So again, we're not from this world. We are outsiders, and to see someone that is in that position, it's just like the work that we do with corporations, and you think about culture and you think about leadership. We're looking at everything through that lens. And so when we're seeing someone that is in a leadership position using a bully pulpit to try and intimidate, which is, I think, a big part of what his tactics are.
I just refuse to let my friends be bullied. I refuse to let that go. And I think another thing is, he was like, well, I was just joking. I wasn't making fun of him. I was joking about him like pumping the crowd up. And I said, what's wrong with pumping the crowd up? What's wrong with creating relationships with fans? And he didn't have an answer.
Yeah.
And so again, it goes back to like, okay, old guard, let's do something different. Like, what's wrong with pumping up the fans? And when you ride by, you wave your hands at them or you say hi or whatever it is. You're not doing anything inappropriate. You're showing passion and you're sharing passion for a sport. And he didn't have an answer. Mm-hmm. I would love to see his riders do the same thing. I would love to see them engage with their fans. Yeah. I mean, it's not complicated.
Again, from a leader perspective, if I am a sponsor of that team, if I'm an owner of that team, again, putting on my consultant hat, I get really concerned about how someone represents me and my brand. And hopefully, they've learned a lesson with this, and maybe they're evaluating that. We have reached out to Rain Storm management and Michael in particular to ask them if they wanted to talk or give us a statement. And so far, we haven't gotten anything in return from them. But yeah, and so I think, lesson learned. I think what we're doing, we should be really proud of because it is Completely. Disrupting. It is challenging, I think, an established protocol that's been doing the same thing for a long time. Mm-hmm. You're now going to go race nationals, time trial, road race, and criterium. Mm-hmm. Winston-Salem, back criterium. Then you're going to do
Unbound
200-mile gravel race. Yeah. This one discipline of cycling is a very small part of our program. But it's been an eye-opener for us in the culture of it. And I think what we've got to continue to do is just think about the bigger picture, and what we know will be a successful program is to continue on with the ethos and the positivity that we're focused on,
and continuing to be ourselves and rising above anything and everything, and continuing to engage and inspire and enjoy.
So thinking about the next few weeks, how are you feeling? Nationals, Winston-Salem, Unbound, like that's our next three big.
Yeah. I mean, I feel great.
Yeah.
I'm excited to rest this week. Winston-Salem.
We weren't even planning on doing Winston-Salem.
No.
We just added
We're
it.
in the podium. I'm in the points podium for USA Crits. We had the drama yesterday. It's not like anything's going to be different when I race these guys again. I still respect them as bike racers. And we have different skill sets, and maybe I'll beat them, maybe they'll beat me. But no matter what, I'm still going to respect them as bike racers. and humans, and I'm not going to try to undermine them or insult them or bully them. It's all sportsmanship and care and respect.
And full gas.
Hulk smash.
And passion. And I get to go race U.S. Nationals. I'm at a physical level I've never been at before. And I get to go to races with excitement and anticipation of what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And belief from my community and surrounding people.
Is there one, because most guys don't do all three. Is there one in particular for U.S. Nationals that you're thinking about?
No.
Just all three. Just see what you can do in all three.
I'm literally completely set on all three. Like, I've been racing crits, but I still believe I can do a good road race, and I know I can do a good TT. And it's just kind of this special feeling of not exactly sure what you're actually capable of, but knowing you're capable of something exciting.
Yeah, let's see what happens. And then Unbound. So last year, we talked about Unbound on the first time you were on the podcast. We're hoping for no mud, and we're hoping for just a good day. And
top 25 last year, and going much better this year in terms of all the aspects that create a good bike racer. So
exciting. Just improving. So let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after that, we're talking about going straight to Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
That's something, again, probably no one's going to do the 200 Unbound, and then the next weekend do Tulsa. If we can get in. If
Joe
we can
might.
Who?
Joe.
Oh, Laverick?
Oh, is he coming back?
Oh, okay.
Oh, exciting.
Okay.
He's back.
So we got to get into Tulsa.
They got to get into.
Yeah. So we're working on that. Tulsa Tough, if you're listening to us, we'll be in touch.
We're knocking on your door. Open.
But hopefully you'll see the value in having Michael there and having us there. It's going to be exciting, and he's going to bring a lot of energy there. So
I'm stoked for everything.
Same. I'm just so excited about the year. I'm excited about the impact you're going to have on the sport, on kids, on fans. I mean, you've had so many people reach out, like women too, like not just like little, not just boys, not just guys, but women. They're like, wow. Because I think it even translates a little bit more in the women's field, because there are a lot of solo female racers in a lot of different races.
Yeah. Who was it? Was it Andrea Sear said reached out.
She was racing solo in the women's field, and left me a great message about racing independently and around the city in the Specialized shop with those guys. Even on the Beltline the other day, some guy called my name, and people are reaching out publicly that have seen what we're doing and are explaining to me the positive impact I'm having on them, and it's amazing.
So let's just hope that all the other teams can also see how much they can impact people, because everyone has their own subculture that supports them. Like Rain has their own subculture of people that support them. We have our own subculture because we all come from different cities, different countries, different places. So I just hope people can focus on that and obviously winning, but focus on how can you just have a positive impact on your people, your fans that are supporting you the most.
Completely.
Thanks, our sponsors.
Thank you to all the sponsors. Apto Solutions, Snapcare, BMC, Wahoo Fitness, Cast Sport, Koo, and Corey
making us look good.
Yeah.
And then we are going to have a celebration this coming Saturday at Speed Club Studios. Celebrate the success of SpeedWeek. We're really excited about. So if you're in Atlanta, you need to join our newsletter.
Please join the newsletter.
Link in bio. Join the newsletter. We'll be sending out details about the gathering that we're going to have here with Michael, Speed Club members, and our friends and family here in Atlanta, which will be a celebration of SpeedWeek, but also just thinking about going forward, thinking about the program, some things that we'll be sharing there.
All right. Over and out.
All right.
Thank you.
81 miles to the out-down road. Never look back, never ever went slow.
Never look back, heard him say that before.
Never look back, never stare at a ghost. EK air when the summertime show. Ain't shit fly but the drones, oh no.